If protoquasars ejected from the nucleus of active galaxies themselves evolve into new, younger galaxies, astrophysicists must find experimentally and observationally the mechanisms which describe this phenomena. One model explains that the protoquasars are ejected, trapped in the galaxy's extreme magnetic field, aligned along the spiral arms, thus explaining the torn, disturbed features often observed in the galactic medium, and the frequent appearance of high redshift companion galaxies attached by filaments to a lower redshift parent galaxy. The other and most frequently observed alignment is when quasars appear to have been directly ejected out of the galaxy's active nucleus along its line of least resistance, creating a field of systematically high to low redshift quasars, or younger to older evolved protogalaxies. This is exemplified in innumerable systems like the one around the galaxy quasar field of NGC 3516. If one disregards the proposed redshift distance to these objects, observation clearly points to ejection as a likely explanation for their close vicinity to the central galaxies around which they are found. These results, though preliminary, are promising developments which may lead the way to new and exciting insights in cosmology.
One of the best and earliest of the really controversial things was a Seyfert galaxy known as NGC 4319, which Chip Arp discovered that it has a protrusion coming out in the south direction from one of its spiral arms, and ending up on another galaxy known as Markarian. And people have tried to explain it away in all kinds of ways, and tried to take false pictures to show that it's not there. But I've seen the good pictures, which were the first really good pictures were taken by Jack Sulentic.
NGC 4319 was part of some work that I did in the early 80s when I was a young astronomer, a young faculty member, and people were coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I've written a paper to show that what Chip Arp has done is wrong." There were at least 3 famous papers right around 79, 80, 81, and it took about 5 minutes to look at these papers to see that they were flawed. And one of them was a paper that claimed to show no connection between NGC 4319 and the quasar Markarian 205. So at that time I had the opportunity to work at JPL using the new image processing facilities that had been developed for the Voyager program, in fact. And it took 1 hour's effort to show that there was some kind of a luminous feature between those 2 objects. I don't know what it is, but there's no question that there is a luminous feature, and it cannot be dismissed in the ways that it was dismissed in the early 80s.
Suddenly there appeared press releases from Space Telescope Science Institute, which was the research arm of NASA's Hubble Space Telescope, and this press release said that they were not connected, and it gave a Hubble Space Telescope picture. It was not very deep, and you could just see 2 objects and no connection between them. And in this press release, then they said that this proved that there was no contradiction with the current expanding universe paradigm.
No connection between the 2 objects. So I looked at their picture, then I downloaded it, and it took me 5 minutes to show that it's still there. Now, I don't know what it is, but I think you face up to the existence of the feature, and then you consider conventional and unconventional explanations. But I was really surprised that they felt it necessary to issue a press release saying, it's not there, it's not real. It's the same thing we saw 20 years ago.
But it's hard to get people to look at this because they don't understand it. You see, it's again the non-cosmological redshifts.
We realized that the people who had been processing the pictures and released it must have known that the bridge was there, and yet they chose to try to convince the public that that in fact it wasn't there, and that everything was right with the current expanding universe paradigm.
It's a strange attitude. I don't understand it as a scientist, really. I think that news release could have generated much more interest in astronomy than many of the more conventional news releases, because people would be talking amongst themselves, gee, what could that be? And then various people could offer scientific explanations. But to just sort of close the door, in a way you could argue that Chip, or someone like Chip, who believes in an alternate interpretation, I'm sitting in the middle of the bridge, so it could be either way, he should feel strong, because I interpret that as a manifestation of fear and uncertainty. Because if I really had confidence in my paradigm, I'd put it right out there and say, well, yes, there is a bridge there, but it's either this explanation or it's that explanation, but certainly it's not what Shaparo says. But instead to just say it isn't there, that's a manifestation of fear, I think.
This misrepresentation of the results on a public level, published through a press release from a government-supported institution, which was not refereed and which gave the wrong information, seemed to escalate, in my opinion and my colleagues' opinion, escalate the controversy into a publicity campaign, which was sort of like doing scientific research by press releases in an attempt to defend, as a sort of a last resort, a dying paradigm in physics.
I don't know what more one can do than the data are there, they've been got, we have to make sense of it.
I think in one sense they think it's bad to, quote, confuse, unquote, the public. Because if you believe in the standard paradigm with all your heart, you know it can't be real. I know it can't be real. You know, if I try to be at all rational within the context of the current Big Bang ideology.
So if you have a cosmological theory that actually starts somewhere. I mean, I knew this when I was 10 years old, I think, sitting out in the backyard swinging with my brother, thinking about what would the edge of the universe look like if we got to the edge of the universe. And we both of us realized, even at that age, that the notion was somehow did not make sense. The universe can't have an edge, and it can't have a beginning. Because if it had an edge, there has to be something on the other side, right? And if there had a beginning, there had to be something on the other side of that. And somehow cosmology, a satisfying philosophical cosmology to me, would have to start with that notion that it was always this way, and it always will be this way. There's all kinds of things happening in there, but somehow the basic laws of nature are such that this exists.
Of course, this is astrophysics, this is science, and everything can be refuted. You have an explanation, you can produce an opposite explanation, so not everything is not so simple.